Hey, how's it going? This is Lawrence from the Performance Ranch, and we're going to start a little new series called the Foundation Series of Movement. And it's something that we take all of our clients through, all of our coaches through. Basically, it's 6 fundamental movements that every human should be able to do. With those movements, that's where you start to actually add the extra stuff on top of it. So the movements are, we're just gonna go through real quick, a deadlift, a squat, a pushing movement, pulling movement, some type of core carry type of movement where it's anti-rotation, anti-flexion, and walking / running. Those are basic human movements that we should all be able to do well. And if you can't, that's okay. We're gonna teach you how to do it well. And we're also, in this series, we're gonna be talking about common faults that we see a lot of. And I've been doing this for close to 20 years now, and I've seen a lot of stuff happening in the movement world. And again, coming from the functional training background through powerlifting and bodybuilding, all of these movements are very similar to all of the sports. So we're gonna kind of blend it all to get together here and kind of show you what is gonna help you maximize and master your movement. So some of the key benefits are, number one is preventing injuries. Injuries are probably gonna be the biggest thing that stops somebody from coming into the gym. The other one is just to be able to maximize your time. I mean, time is our biggest thing that we don't have a lot of, right? We all have 24 hours in a day, so how do we spend that 24 hours if you're in the gym for 3 hours? So we can teach you how to be in the gym and get a great workout in less than 45 minutes, and that's just by creating the movement and doing the movement very, very well, because then you're gonna maximize your caloric expenditure, you're gonna maximize your ability to gain strength. There's a lot of good benefits from that part of it. All right, so this is Coach Brendan here, where he's gonna help us out today. The big thing with what we're gonna work on in these movements, we're gonna break it up into a series. So the first movement we're gonna really hammer down today is hip hinging. Hip hinging is probably the most fundamental athletic movement that somebody has to be able to do. Brendan, as a soccer goalie here, I mean, that's the position you're in all the time. It can kind of show us what your ready position is. So if you can see it, like you go ahead and face me here, boom. So that's automatically, he's in a hinge position. So being able to master that and be efficient from that movement, that's where you're gonna see the benefits from that. Now, we can increase his strength, his power, his speed from that movement. That's where a lot of things start to really happen, right? That's when you start to become more on the elite level of things. So with Brendan today, we're gonna start off with how we started everybody off. Like we do the functional movement screen as previously shown, right? So we're looking at overhead squat, we're looking at all these different movements. I'm looking at something that he may not be able to do. So first thing is, I want your feet together, Brendan, and I want you just to go down and touch your toes. So this starts kind of where we're at, right? So this, go ahead and come all the way up. How is this compared to about 6 months ago when you first started here?
Honestly, way better.
Yeah, way better, right? Because I think 6 months ago, you're about there. So again, it takes time. So we're looking at 6 months down the road now, where he was, here, and you're what, 24?
Yeah,
24 years old, playing soccer for the last 15?
15 years.
Yeah, 10, 15 years or so at an elite level. So he was on a collegiate level, all-American soccer goalie. So with that alone, we know he's a very good athlete, but how are we gonna make him a better athlete, right? It's being able to get to that position a little easier. So in 6 months' time, how does your body feel overall? That's kind of a good.
I feel like I can do more.
Yeah.
I feel like I can stretch myself more. I mean, I coach now, and when I hop in, I do feel like I can stretch further than I did.
That's good. That's good, and that makes. I mean, it's kind of crazy how that stuff works, right? It's, we've given him the time to kind of adapt to some of the programming here. So first things first, we're going to start off with with the hip hinge. We do know he does lack the ability to get to his toes, so I'm going to help him with that. All right, so we are going to help Brendan out with this movement by taking him through the hip hinge series. This is something I do with most clients who have the difficulty getting down and touching their toes. And again, a lot of times people think that this is a limitation of hamstring flexibility. The reality is it's actually the reason why most people can't touch their toes is there's two things. They don't know how to hinge their hips, meaning they don't have to push their hips back. And the other thing is they don't have the adequate core strength and leg strength stability to hold that position here. It's not legs locked out. Legs locked out leads into a false sense of stability there. So if you're trying to lock out your legs and go down, you're actually just creating tension through the thighs to support you. But if you have your legs slightly bent and then you go down, now you're actually depending on your legs, your core, and everything to stabilize you in that pattern. So with Brendan, the first thing I'm gonna have you do is go ahead and step with your toes on top of that board. Just your toes, feet together. Yep. And then you're going to put this between your knees. Good, you're gonna squeeze it between your knees. You're gonna reach your hands up over your head. You're gonna take a deep breath and you're gonna reach down and try to touch your toes. And if you can't touch them, I want you to bend your knees so you actually can. There we go, good, come right back up. Let's do that 3 times, and every time you do, I want you to really work on the deep breath out. Good, there you go. One more time. And then reach all the way down. Good, now do the same exact thing with your heels on the board. Again, you're gonna squeeze that board, feet together. So what we're doing with the little pad here between his knees is we're having him create stability by creating tension through his hips. So let's do that again. Reach up, go down, good. Again, all we're trying to do also is groove that pattern. If you notice where his hips are going every single time, his hips push back. And that's what I wanna see. I wanna see his hips getting behind him, because that's when he's gonna really start to work on the hip extensors, meaning the glutes and the hamstrings, to create more of a spring-like feeling. So do the same thing, last one, flat on the floor now. So it's gonna reach up, go down, good. Let's go feet together a little bit more, good. Got 2 more times, and we're squeezing those knees. And of course, he's warming up the muscles, starting to increase a little bit of length there. But again, we're using this as a warm up. So now let's go ahead and just go down and try to touch your toes. It's like how we just, yep. Let's go down, touch those toes. You can see it's significantly easier to do, right? So the first thing we just saw is his hips are able to get back. So go ahead and do it again, facing me, good. We want to just see his hips drop straight back, and that's where we want to be at. So not only is this good for a soccer player, right? Soccer players will be able to be in this position. It's really good for any athlete. I mean, the athletic position is hips back, balls of your feet ready to attack or respond, react, whatever term you're gonna use. But I also think about it in cycling, in the cycling world. As a mountain biker myself, I'm always having to be in this position. You guys have seen some of our other videos. If you haven't seen it, check it out here. You can just click on that link, follow those videos. But you're gonna see the hip hinge and how crazy how we really create this tension through our body to control that bike. So now we're gonna go into, that's where it needs to start. So if you can't touch your toes, deadlifting shouldn't even be in your repertoire until you can master that. Very simple to do. You see, we've done it. I think we had you doing a deadlift within the first couple weeks or so, doing some stuff like that. So again, it's not like you have to spend a lot of time doing that stuff. So right now we're gonna work on just from the very, very base. If you can't touch your toes, what do we do? We're gonna have Brendan here lie on his back. Go ahead and put your head over here, feet here. We're gonna take it from the ground up. Usually the requirement to touch your toes or to get into that position is you gotta establish stability and control somewhere. We're gonna have him do it through the ground. The ground's gonna be what he's gonna develop that control from. I want you to bend your knees. We're gonna go feet together, good. Gonna move them out a little bit, good. Now I want you to do this. I want you to actually get your feet apart just about 6 inches, right there. That's perfect. And now we're gonna work on breathing real quick. So we're just gonna teach Brendan or have him really work on this diaphragmatic breathing and creating tension from his core. So I want you to put your hand on your belly, take a deep breath in. And I want you to do this every time we're breathing. We're working on breathing from the nose. So breathing in from the nose, breathing out through the mouth like you're breathing out through a straw. And with Brendan, we can tell his shoulders want to kind of come forward, right? So we're really going to teach him to get those shoulders back. And if for time's sake, let's have you just put one hand there, keep this one down. Good, and really think about pulling that rib cage down and creating tension against the floor. And breathe in. Try not to move too much from the chest. Try to move it more from the diaphragm. There we go. Now we're looking at his rib cage starting to expand. Again, you gotta think about the lung is all in here, right? So most people are notorious for only using like half or even the top third of their lungs. So to get more capacity, we're teaching them how to breathe and use the full lung here. Good. How does that feel?
That's all right.
Good. So now that he got the breathing down, again, try not to move your hips too much. Just keep the hips centered and controlled. Good. So breathe in and then breathe out. There we go. So now you see I actually had him freeze his hips. Before he was starting to move his hips a little bit to get the breathing in. This is kind of new for him. We haven't really spending a lot of time doing this yet, but you can see how he's starting to master it here. Now his hips are staying still. He's breathing from his deep in the diaphragm. You can see his shoulders have relaxed also. So typically those breathing muscles, the ones that you're trying to get a lot of short breaths in, that happens from the top side here. So as he really works on the diaphragm and the deep breathing muscles, he starts to relax those other muscles on the top. Good. So now we got the breathing down. Go ahead and we're gonna stay in this position. Let's get those feet about hip width apart, so a little wider right there. I want you to keep tension through the heels, and you're gonna keep the breathing up, but as you breathe out, you're now gonna tuck your pelvis under you and drive your belly button and belt buckle straight up to the ceiling, all right? So breathe in through your nose. Now focus on breathing out, push the weight through your heels and drive straight up. We're gonna freeze right here. So now we're looking at extension of the hips. It's shoulder blade, hip, knee is all in control. Go down. Where do you feel that? In the butt, perfect. That's where we want to feel it. So I always ask them, where do you feel it? Because a lot of times people go, oh, I've got my hamstrings. So again, those assistant muscles are taking over for the prime mover. He didn't feel it in the assistant, so that's really, really good. Let's do that again. We're just gonna do it 5 times, just so you kind of have that pattern down. Good. And you see he wants to kind of throw his rib cage forward. There we go. Going back again. Let's go and bring your feet back a little bit. Now really be heavy through the heels and drive straight up, a little slow with control. There we go. Lifting the toes is fine as long as the toes don't flare out. So make sure the toes stay pointed straight ahead like you have skis on your feet. Again, drive up. Think about that breath. Good. Pull the rib cage down. There we go. Always looking for that straight line. Let's go one more rep. Good. So now you see, if you're feeling those hips really starting to work. So now, go back down without having to really change position or to change by adding resist, right? A lot of people go, well, how can I make this harder? Well, obviously we can put weight on his chest or something like that, or in his hips, but instead, we're going to make it harder by doing this on one leg. So we're doing it in a unilateral position. This gets very challenging here. We're not gonna actually have him do it one leg up. We're gonna have him get to the top, we're just gonna have him march in place, so he has to stabilize. But to do this is get your feet together, so we create that base of support. It's a little bit narrower there. Go ahead and emphasize, yep, same thing, breathe out. Drive up and hold. Now I want you to march in place. Just go ahead and get your right leg up. There you go. Go down. Perfect. And now I'm looking at his hips, making sure his hips don't move. Let's just do 3 in each side. So again, without having to really emphasize the strength part of it, because a lot of times we'll do this. Now go ahead and go feet together. So that's kind of phase 1. How did that feel? You still feel the glutes working? Perfect. Perfect. Good. So now we're going to do the same exact thing, except we're going to bring one leg in. So go ahead and, bring it up and in like this. And then we're just gonna do the same exact thing, driving through his right foot. Now, sometimes if his glutes aren't gonna function how they should, he might get that hamstring to take over. Go back down. Let's do that 3 times. And if his glutes working how it should, the hamstring won't feel that cramp. And that's sometimes what we see is like people will literally jump up because their hamstring cramps up. Good, how's it feel?
Good. That is something I used to get all the time.
Yeah.
Do single leg bridges, and I get cramped in there.
I'm gonna switch. Well, I remember when you were training at my house over the Christmas break last year, that was something that would always happen there at the house. Go ahead and go in. This is when we were doing our indoor workouts. Drive up, good. And this is a little more challenging in this left leg. Go down. Do you kick left-footed?
Right-footed.
Right-footed. So it'll come up again. And the reason why I say it's challenging because I'm watching what his hip is doing. So get this hip up a little bit. There we go. Down. Last one. Good. And down. How's that feel?
That was tougher than the other.
Yeah, so definitely a lot harder. You can just see where the hip is. So kind of the next phase after that, right? So this obviously is the ground. He created tension from the ground. We worked on creating that pattern of getting the hips to get under him and finish an extension. So now we're gonna do the same exact thing, but just on our knees. We're gonna do a kneeling hip bridge. Sorry, a kneeling hip hinge. So I'll show you from the front. What I like having my clients do is getting up tall, getting up so their body looks like at the top end of a bridge, right? This is extension. Then I'll put their hands behind their back so they can work on posture. And all they're gonna do, and I'll actually make sure their toes are dug into the ground so I can create this tension from my ankle as well. But I'm gonna push my hips back into my hands, again, looking for that perfect line between my hip, my shoulder, and my ear. And then I'm gonna drive my hips straight up, just like a bridge, tuck my pelvis under me, and finish up nice and tall. All right, so that's the goal. We're gonna have Brendan do that now. So again, everything has a purpose. We're always trying to make sure we're maximizing time by purposeful movement. Go ahead and tuck your toes in. So again, now we're creating stability and control from the ankle. We're making sure his hips can tuck under him, his pelvis, his posture is upright. So this is the top end of extension. Now, if we were just to get him on his feet, this is this position. So again, it's all in steps. So now we're gonna just drive your hips back, but keep that hip aligned with your, so you're gonna kind of more of a hinge. Just push your butt back. There we go. Good. Chin down a little bit. There we go. So again, looking at lines. Ear, shoulder, hip, and knee. When he gets to the top. And then come up. You can see his shoulders starting to sit back where they should. Good. That's why you put the hands behind somebody here. Driving up. We're just going to do 5 reps. And again, think about that breath. Every time you come forward, drive that the belly button and belt buckle forward. So you got to get the hips to tuck under. There we go. It's the finishing movement. It's the movement of the top end of hip extension. And finish up strong. Good. So we will make this a little more challenging. It's too hard to really do this on one leg, obviously on the knees. So we're gonna do this with the weight behind the back. And again, that's just gonna help pull his shoulders back a little bit more. Everything's gonna set tension. It's gonna also give him some feedback of what to push up against. Let's go and do the same thing. Let's do 3 more reps. So push your butt back, chin down. Good. And then come all the way up. Drive those hips forward. Squeezing. Good. Again, down. And forward. Good. And we're gonna do it one more time. There we go. So now we just take that same pattern, same position, but now we do it on our feet. So go ahead and stand up. We're gonna do the same exact thing. And just to kind of start with most people, if they're just starting to learn to hip hinge and to deadlift, we're gonna take a kettlebell pretty light. This is 8 kilograms here. I'm gonna have Brendan hold it at his chest, and I'm gonna tell him to imagine trying to break this thing in half. He's gonna squeeze the shoulders, squeeze his lats down, squeeze everything nice and tight, and he's gonna push his hips straight back and then straight up. Again, by holding the weight in front of you, without me having to say anything to him, he's automatically gonna turn the front side of his core on, his anterior core. So ready? Let's go and try that real quick. So the first thing we start off with is feet are pointed straight ahead. We imagine we have skis on. We're also gonna imagine you're gonna tear the turf in half with your feet. That's gonna be pushing your knees apart, right? Creating an arch in his foot. There we go. Now bend the knees slightly and just push your butt straight back. So there's a lot more we have to do at the feet for this position. Go ahead and pause right there, come all the way up. Yep, right there, all the way up and finish strong. Good. So as you go back, you should be feeling a stretch, right, through the hamstring and the butt. Good. You can see his back is staying flat, right? Now we're actually keeping everything in control with his spine. He has a little slight arch is what we want. And then the arch stays pretty much the same shape the whole way. Down. Or if you're feeling a lot of tension and pain through the lower back, that's typically, most people will be moving from the back to hinge rather than the hips to hinge. Good, finish strong. Last one. So again, this is just a bilateral deadlift, holding the weight up in front, good. So now, to make this even more of a deadlift, we just grab the weight, we're just gonna pull it from the floor now. So the definition of a deadlift is moving the weight from the floor up. That's all it is. You probably heard of Turkish, Romanian deadlift, and Russian deadlift, and Bulgarian, all these things of deadlift. A deadlift is something simple, just from the floor up. So I'm gonna have him get, just like I told him before, I'm gonna have him put his feet directly in line with the handle of the kettlebell. I'm gonna have him create tension by spreading the floor apart, getting those hips to turn on. I'm gonna have him get down, grab the kettlebell, and have him break it in half by setting his lats down. So you see what I automatically did? Pull my shoulders down. I'm gonna have him push his feet through the floor as hard as he can and stand up nice and tall and finish strong. So that's the position I'm gonna want him in. So it's a lot more involved when you create the tension that's needed rather than just trying to lift a weight. So let's get up there on top. And we'll make sure that weight's appropriate height as well. And the way we can tell that is what happens at his spine. If we need to create a little bit of a lift for the weight, we can easily do that as well. So go back down. So we're just gonna start from that position. We're gonna create a lot of tension first, chin down. So we can see what happens here, right? It's a little bit of flexion at the spine. So go ahead and let go real quick. We're gonna add a little bit of a lift, because again, I want him to learn what the position feels like with the appropriate pattern in his spine. So again, create that tension, grab that, but pull it back deep through the lats. So without lifting it, I tell people, imagine that weight weighs 1,000 pounds. Grab it hard, squeeze on it tight, the back's in place, push your feet through the ground and stand up tall by breathing out. Good. Again, same thing, repeat that pattern, drive your knees apart. Good. Let's do that one more time, but make sure really to drive the knees out. Good, there it is. One more time. Perfect, and down. How does that feel? Yeah, feeling a lot more hamstring, a lot more glute, right? So, now the next scale up, what I like to do, these are one of my favorite movements, is doing this in a split stance position. So the way I do it, and again, we're gonna use the block just because it's here. I'm gonna put my heel even with the edge of the block. I'm gonna put my toe up at the front edge of the block. So now my heel and toe are pretty much in the same line. I'm gonna create space by getting my knees apart. So for those of you that cycle, this is that position. This is that hip hinge position of your pedals. Also, fighters and other type of athletes that do, and pretty much every athlete does something in a split stance position. This is a very good position to be in, because now you're gonna teach this lead leg of how to push off and drive. So I'm gonna get down here. I'm just gonna do it with one arm first. The main thing is when you do this, you gotta make sure those shoulders are level, because it's very common to see people come down like this. So hips back, that means their hips are level, shoulders are level. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna imagine it weighs 1,000 pounds. I'm gonna squeeze my lat down, shoulder. I'm gonna breathe out hard, drive through my lead leg, and finish strong. Right back down, drive, up strong. If you're thinking about all the movements, all the muscles that are involved, there's a lot of stuff going on throughout the whole body here. So that's why we can maximize time by doing everything right. Good, go down. I want you to grab it hard, squeeze that shoulder blade down, push your weight through that front heel, back looks good, breathe out, stand tall. Good, so we're gonna have you do that again, but I want you to go down and get off of this heel. There you go, so go down, make sure your heel lifts up a little bit. There we go, back is flat, engage. Good, we're just gonna have you do it 3 times on each side. Yep, engage, perfect. And down. Go ahead and switch sides. So same exact thing. You can get your feet a little wider, give yourself a little more position. There you go. Again, the narrower you are, the more stability you have to have. So a little wider gives you a wider base of support. Squeeze the shoulder blades down, and then breathe out, stand tall. There you go. Good. Last one. Perfect. How'd that feel? Lead hamstring, yep, perfect. So now we're gonna do another movement, which is the same thing as a hip hinge. We're gonna go a little bit less weight, and I'm actually gonna have him do this up against the wall here. All right, so pretty much what we're gonna end with on this hip hinge position is doing this on a single leg. A lot of times this exercise is done inappropriately or just in a position that the body doesn't really respond too well of getting into. What I'm referring to is you'll see a lot of people get down to this position and their hips turn out so they open up. Show you from the front. I'm either here or they're going down with the weight and they're just kind of bending at the back rather than actually getting the hip to work. So again, the whole goal of today is hip hinge. We're working on that hip. So the way I'm gonna show it, typically to make this the easiest to kind of learn at first, I'll put somebody, whatever leg, I'm gonna go my right leg in front. That means I'm gonna grab the weight with my right hand. I'm gonna get nice and tall, I'm gonna start here. I always have some type of aid for balance. As I kick back, I'm bending my knee a little bit, you can see that. And I'm reaching my left leg straight back. So now my body should be flat. I'm gonna stand all the way up and pull my hips forward. It's the same exact position we've been working on, except it's on one leg. So as any type of athlete, runner, cyclist, team sport, whatever, every sport is pretty much done on one leg. So the stronger you can be on that one leg, the more efficient you can be, the better you're gonna perform at whatever you have to do. So let's have Brendan going to step up with her foot right next to it. I'm just gonna have him kick straight back. And if he has a hard time, so he's gonna start there, going to kick that left leg straight back. We'll see what it looks like. Use that wall, gonna put the hand on the wall. Pause, shoulders back a little bit, hip down, leg back. So now you should be feeling heavy load in that right glute, all the way up, good. Same thing again. So again, you notice he fixed his hip there, that was good. Good, come all the way up. And if you have inadequate range of motion, bend your knee a little bit more. That'll help the position, there you go. Because again, that hamstring attaches right here at the bottom end of the glute, comes over that knee through here. So if we bend the knee, you actually shorten the hamstring up a little bit and be able to really get what we want to get, which is that glute. One more time. There we go, slide that hand down. As he slides his hand down, that keeps his shoulders aligned. Good, perfect. Let's go ahead and turn around. We can't just use one leg, right? Yeah. So here's the, so now we know this is a challenging side. So let's see what happens here. Bend that left knee a little bit. Kick straight back. Pause, let that hand slide. Kick this leg straight back further, further. Good, now stand up tall. How's that side feel? Yeah. So same exact thing, but really think about that arch in your left foot. And what I'm saying by that is trying to create an arch in his foot so his knee doesn't collapse. Ready? So bend this knee, create that arch, and drive. Put your knee against my hand here. There you go. Stand up tall. So if you have issues with this internal knee rotation, you may see yourself walking or see yourself when you land and your knees crash in. That's typically because these muscles aren't as strong as they should be, right? So that's why we're making sure he's emphasizing that knee, that press out, creating tension through his foot so then he can keep that knee over his toes, or sorry, in line with his toes. Ready? Kick back. And push into my hand. There we go, now come all the way up. Good, so there's a couple little things we could do for this just to help out, just so you can have one cue. So the easiest, sorry, ready? So the easiest and best way I have found to help somebody out that has issues with that single leg deadlift, and for him it was more left leg down, right leg going back. I'm gonna have him grab this little strap here, jump, I think they're called a jump stretch band or something like that. But anyways, you're gonna grab this, you're gonna put it up around your shoulder. So now between shoulder and foot, is completely locked out. So if I bend my knee, it collapses. So now he's not gonna be able to bend that knee at all. So I'm gonna have him do the same exact thing. He's gonna kick straight back, grab that weight. Now I want you to start from here, just like a deadlift, and then stand all the way up. So if you notice, that really fixed a lot of stuff. I'm pushing through my right side, my glute. I'm creating that arch in my foot, keeping my head in place, standing all the way up. So let's try that real quick. So just your right side. There we go, make sure that foot's in place. Bend that left knee a little bit, kick straight back. There we go. And all the way up. Good. Do it 2 more times. There we go, Brendan. 1 more time, I want you to really think about that right leg going straight back towards me. Reach it back, reach it back. There we go, stand tall. Good. So how did that feel? Easier to control, to stabilize? Yeah, so again, he created a lot of tension from that right side to help stabilize him. Again, that's the whole goal of talking about soon in another video is core strength, stability. So again, it's all gonna link together because all these exercises are more total body, even though we say, yeah, we're gonna work on a hinge, but in reality, it's like, it's everything, right? So, thanks for joining us for the hip hinge video. Stay tuned for our other ones coming soon. Click on our like button, please, just to kind of share more of these videos with all of our friends and our family and your friends and family. We really want to start to help more people move better, feel better, so they can live life beyond the gym walls.